Hello everyone, welcome back to I Say Cousin. Today we're continuing with The Darkness Within in Pursuit of Loath Nolder. So let's find out what we're gonna do. Last time we read a bunch of poetry, and now we're in our office. Let's go over here. Let's have a look. Register of Deaths, Clark Field. He was single. Place of burial, date of burial, 2011. Physician's certificate of cause of death. I hereby certify that I attended deceased from and the death occurred on the date stated above. The cause of death was as follows: suffocation. I affirm that the above is true to the best of my knowledge. You didn't fill it out mostly. Morris Digger. Alright. Interesting. There's some photos.
These are investigation pictures taken at Loath Nolder's office. There was nothing there when we first searched the place. I have examined the place several times since then, but couldn't find any clues. That office is the only property Nolder owns. He even sold his house to help pay for his strange travels around the world. So why didn't he sell his office as well? I think I'd better take these pictures with me. Maybe there's something here we're not seeing.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Let's zoom in. Reset view. Alright. What are we missing here? Maybe if we go there we can find out. Let's have a look over here. I'd be curious to know what inspired something like this. Like what sort of stories or influences this game might have had. My house, with Nolder's office, my office. Let's go here. Vroom. Loath Nolder's office. Nothing was found during the police investigation because every record had been strangely effaced. The office has a hushed, expectant air, as though it is hiding secrets and has been waiting 5 years for Loath Nolder's return.
There wasn't this much mess the last time I was here. It's been sealed for police investigation, but someone's been in here. Who was it? And why? There's nothing
Interesting.
important here. It's almost empty.
As far as we know. Scarlet is 5 years old. This must be from just decision to travel abroad. He visited some African Ocean countries during his travels. Hello. have a look. The room was used for storing registers. It looks like it was emptied some time ago. Painting. The style of these paintings is not typical of those on display in your average office. Depends what the average is. Alright. Let's go have a look behind the desk. Earthquake hit Brangston just after 3 a.m. An earthquake of magnitude 6.1 hit Brangston, a small town about 18 miles northwest of Wellsmouth, around 3 a.m. At present, it is reported that 18 people were killed by the earthquake and 137 people were injured. 9 houses collapsed and many more were severely damaged. It's further reported that there are people buried under the collapsed houses. By chance, Thomas Koch, one of the reporters of the local newspaper, was at the town centre. He told us about the moment the quake occurred. It was a shocking moment. Every building was shaking. Then people started to scream. I could see them jumping from their balconies and windows to save their lives. I've never seen anything like that in my life. The quake was strongly felt in the downtown of Wellsmouth too. Nobody died, but 59 people were injured in the panic caused by the quake. Most of the people spent the night out in their cars or in the parks. Officials warned people not to stay in the damaged houses and to be ready for possible aftershocks. None of the buildings in Wellsmouth collapsed, but a further exciting coincidence. Recently, in the coal mine that belongs to the Big Mole Mining Corp in the town of Brangston, an exciting coincidence occurred. Many archaeologists consider this the most mysterious and exciting discovery in recent years. A room was found with its entrance covered with figures, reliefs, and unexplained drawings. It is explained that this could possibly be a part of some prehistoric underground religion of a settlement. The operation of the mine was stopped immediately until a complete investigation of the region is carried out. The first archaeologist who investigated the region, David R. Hydson, explained that the remains do not belong to any civilization known to date, and that they are from very ancient times. Definitive conclusions will be available only after a complete examination. Interesting. What do we have in here? Wellsmouth Myths and Legends of an Ancient Town. The book is about the folk myths of Wellsmouth. I vaguely remember my grandfather telling me some of them. A hint is available. Preface. This work is being prepared in order to collect the folk myths of the town of Wellsmouth into one coherent source. That's kind of like what I'm trying to do. Bring all the Cosmic Horror Gaming experiences into one channel. As is generally known, Wellsmouth is a settlement that was built during medieval times. Precise dates are not known, and due to the high mountains surrounding it, always lived apart from the other settlements. For this reason, ethnologists are drawn to investigate the history of such an insular region. Investigating and compiling the folk myths of an area such as Wellsmouth creates a rich ethnological body of knowledge which can provide information about the surrounding region. P.S. I want to thank my friends Alfonso Gray, who worked with me on some parts of the book. Amateur ethnologist Sean Bridge. Sheen? Earth's Curse. Earth's Curse myth may be one of the oldest myths of the region. Although controversy surrounds its origins, the generally accepted version goes back to ancient times. The natural phenomenon which occurs every year at particular times on the Northwood Mountain cannot be explained completely even today. Strong winds, which with horrible rumblings spray dust and small stone pieces throughout some caves and cracked rocks in the Northwood mists. These pieces of stone rain down onto the nearby towns and are seen after a strong earthquake, which is different from the ordinary small ones which happen in the Wellsmouth first degree earthquake zone. That's interesting because we just learned that there was an earthquake in Wellsmouth, or Bregston. It is a known fact that the first settlement of the Wellsmouth district was set up in the forest-clad Northwood region, where, because of its altitude, the climate was generally harsh during most of the year. This region also includes the Northwood Mountain, which is mentioned in many of the myths. The large Northwood forest covers the area like a thick blanket up to the foot of the mountain, and out of a few glades, and provides no suitable place for habitation. But in these glades, the soil is very fertile and abundant, and hence a small town was built around the Wolf Spray Pond, which also gave its name to the town. But later the name of the town was changed to Windlaps. According to Eartha's curse myth, the folk of Wolf Spray encountered a small, harsh-looking, hostile folk who, for a long time, lived on some of the plateaus on the Northwood Mountain. They found some of the traditions and behavior of these people, who called themselves Eartha, absolutely disgusting. After a time when some strange disappearances started to occur, everyone started to be uncomfortable, and the Eartha were forcibly driven out from the plateaus on which they were living. After this incident, it is said that Eartha's curse started, and it is widely believed that this is the price for that banishment. Very strange things were said about the traditions of the Eartha, which made the folk of Wolfspray very apprehensive. It is related in the rites of Eartha that one night a group of people were sent to see what was happening on the plateaus, and when they returned, they were unable to speak because of fear. Only the next morning could they fearfully whisper about what they saw, including the fate of those who were abducted from their town. It is said that the Eartha were a devil breed who sometimes in a dark and deep cave worshipped loathsome idols, offered sacrifices to them by dancing the accomplishment of monotonous music, and summoned something from below hell by hitting their palms on the ground. Today, some habitations were found in the archaeological excavations, but none of the caves in that region contained idols similar to those mentioned in the myths. We're getting closer to that cosmic horror, hey. It was very interesting. Can we open anything else? Nope. The line is dead. The letter opener. Is there something different about this picture? Alright, let's go back. The painting. It's crooked. Someone moved this painting. The scene is being sealed by the police. Who could have gotten in here? Let's see the back of it. There seems to be something in it. And we need to open it with the letter opener. An envelope I found in the painting's frame. I think it was put there after the police investigation. Yeah. Aha! Finally got it. At the end of the letter, Clark is written, and it's written to Jonathan, his brother. These are the notes that Jonathan mentioned in his statement. Jonathan, you know that I like to stick to the point. I'm writing this note to you because I know that shortly something bad is going to happen to me. For about 4 months now, we haven't seen each other, and I didn't reveal my location because I knew that as long as I was looking after the company and keeping things in order, you wouldn't worry about me. I will speak plainly. I know that you don't like me, and the feeling is mutual, but this is not the time for such matters. About 1 year ago, I bought a house in the old Northern Quarter, and I was living there during the gradually increasing time periods when we didn't speak to each other. True to my nature, mysteries of olden times always attracted me much more than anything else. And you also know that I never wanted to mention my present situation, neither to you nor to anyone else. In fact, up until 2 months ago, I never even considered such a thing, and now despite the inconceivable nature of the situation that I am in, I can hardly suppress my feeling of reluctance. You can call this a sort of childish jealousy, but I don't care. Right now, it is impossible to tell you what has happened. If you wonder, you can acquire a little information from my notes which I have included in this package. There is just one thing I want from you. Do not go there, and sell it any way you can. Do this both for you and for our family's honor. And don't go to the police regarding this affair. Don't go. Whatever happens. You can find the address below. We will not meet again. Take care. Clark. And then his address is at the bottom. Let's try underlining that. There is an address here, but of what? That's not a clue. What about Jonathan? Jonathan Field. Clark Field's younger brother. Interesting. Mr. Field secretly bought a house. Maybe now? Here is the address of Clark Field's house. The key in the envelope must be his house key. I'd better go there to continue the investigation. Yeah, hey. We did it! I'm gonna struggle with that in the future. Clark Field's notes, which he wrote prior to his death. 1st of the 3rd. Or is it 3rd of the 1st? Some time ago, I decided to write these notes precisely 1 month after I bought this house, in which I have found myself lost in thought, adrift in its dim silence. I escaped the meaningless monotony of my life by listening to every creak and every sound the house makes. I may not write often, but I think that these notes are important. I found this house only by an astonishing coincidence. I had gotten lost in the snow-covered narrow streets of this part of the city while I was wandering. I felt in awe, as though I were adrift in some misty past. I awoke from my wonder and strove to find the way back. That is how I came to this house. Its majestic appearance attracted my attention. For some time, I had wanted a place to come to from time to time, to listen to this overlooked world of the past that no one knows, and where no one wants to come. I found a barely legible metal plate on the half-ruined garden wall that showed the number of the house. It was covered with rust, probably as old as the house itself. Without hesitation, I recorded this number in my digital organizer, which I bought some time ago because of my increasing forgetfulness. I can wholeheartedly empathize. When I inspected it from the outside, it was obvious that no one lived there at the time. I examined it in order to learn if it was for sale or not, and I can't describe my feelings when I found the person who was selling it. Later, I talked to the vendor, and with a happy smile on his face, I remember he said that he had never come here before the house had been left to his company because of a mortgage, and he wanted to sell it right away, but never thought that this would happen. He didn't know anything more about the house, and in fact, I wouldn't have cared if he had. I bought it without hesitation. There is one point that I don't want to continue without mentioning. After I bought the house, I learned that it had another buyer who introduced himself as Ivar Bergen, a Norwegian immigrant. Judging from his appearance, it was obvious that he was a wealthy person, and I remember that he said when we first met that he was also an aspiring owner, but it seemed that he was too late. Okay, so 18th of January, here we go. This house is an old and real place beyond my imagination. I cannot stop thinking of what it would say if walls could talk. Some of the surrounding houses have been abandoned and shunned by people and are on the brink of collapse. A few of them even collapsed a long time ago. It makes me wonder as to the probability of restoration having been done fairly recently, since the house is still standing firm and strong. I am sure that this house is as old as the surrounding ones. Maybe the main reason for the bad reputation of this quarter is the different rumours that are often spread about some of the abandoned houses. These rumours recount how these houses have sometimes had bad owners, including some unknown foreigners. Some people in the town consider the crime rate to be high here, but that has not been my experience. The inhabitants of the neighbourhood keep very much to themselves and don't socialise frequently, other than to gossip quietly amongst themselves. I've started to get to know Ivar Bergen and can say that our interests coincide almost completely. He visited me after our first meeting and we took the opportunity to talk at length. He managed to enchant me with his vast knowledge of mystic subjects. We talked the night away, discussing topics of mutual interest, and he told me about the things he experienced in some Eastern European countries and in India, and about his connections with some really esoteric and secret people and societies. He told me that he had read some books and tomes which were prohibited, or attempts had been made to try to destroy them a long time ago. I cannot describe the pleasure I had when he expressed his unbelievable theories about the background of most of the things which are assumed to be superstitions, with proofs cited from things he had read in some of the ancient sources. For a long time, I have lived alone amongst ordinary people and cannot describe the empty feeling that I always felt within me. From now on, I think that I will not have such a problem anymore. In life, it is really hard to find someone who you can speak with, even within your own family. I told Ivor this from the bottom of my heart and encouraged him to visit me whenever he likes. I'm going to guess and say probably shouldn't have done that. March. Before tending to the outdoor areas, I decided to restore the interior of the house. To do this, I was assisted by the original blueprints. While I was checking the antique furniture last night in order to decide what to throw away, I found one carved wooden statue and a strange well-like dig, whose opening was carefully covered with a single piece of rusty metal plate and some wooden blocks. I had not checked this room before since its key was not given to me with the others. I might have noticed this beforehand, but I didn't have much time to get the keys, being busy with company agreements, and the man from whom I bought this house was abroad travelling. Incidentally, there is another point that I can't continue without mentioning. That room, which oddly enough contains a well, has no electric wiring. It is really strange that in contrast, all the other rooms have electricity. So I had to light up the room with some lanterns which I found amongst the old furniture of the house. I felt a slight cold draft coming from within the carefully covered well, and occasionally I heard some rattling sounds, but because I didn't have a strong enough flashlight, I couldn't examine the situation down below. I even threw a few small wooden blocks down there, but I only heard sounds which made me think that the ground at the bottom is covered with mud. As soon as possible, I'm going to buy a stronger flashlight and try to examine down below. There isn't even the slightest clue regarding the reasons for digging such a well. Maybe it is the entrance to an underground room, which was dug for the purposes of taking shelter during an extraordinary situation, such as war. I wanted to take a look down there, but the ladder at the side seemed too rusty and flimsy. I decided that trying it would be too dangerous, so I tried to find another way, but I couldn't find anything useful at the time. The carved wooden statue is a complete enigma. I have no idea what it depicts. Whenever I hold it, due to reasons that I can't comprehend, I feel that it is very ancient. It was carved smoothly from a species of tree that I don't recognize, and it contains a secret compartment. I think that I unintentionally did something because it opened by itself, or maybe it was already open. I am not sure. There was nothing in the secret compartment. It was completely empty. Oddly enough, I felt that it had once stored something very precious. In addition, a beautiful yet subtle smell is dispersing from within the secret compartment. I cannot tell what it is, but maybe it's some type of incense. Later in March, I think I've really started to get used to the house. During the first weeks, although I even hid this from myself, I felt like I wasn't going to get used to being here. I was jumping at every creak and cautiously listening to every sound. I kept waking up because of some excessively dense, strange smells whose source I couldn't identify, and then I wasn't able to get back to sleep again. Yes, this may sound childish, but this house has a genius loci that is really effective. As if all the creaks which are heard within and all these musty smells are alien. Maybe some of the stories that I have heard from some of the local people have influenced my thinking. The importance of these stories, most of them being related to the old owners of the house, seems too much for the local people. When they talk about these matters, a tone dominates their voices that is a mixture of awe and reverence, and as though they're afraid of being heard, they start to whisper. According to the stories, this quarter is one of the first settlements of the Wellsmouth, and for this reason, the houses which are standing now are the reconstruction, or at least vastly restored versions of the original ones. Is that the Eartha? Anyway, there was a special purpose for trying to keep some of the houses intact, and they are too tight-lipped about this purpose. And they mention some connections and deep wells like the one I found in my house, but they refrain from describing the purpose of these. If I investigate further, I hope to learn more about these connections or deep wells. April. I have completed all the preparations for the restoration and hired a competent and experienced team. They will start working next week to change all the inner wooden planking and wallpaper. I hope that with these changes I can stop all these musty and other unknown smells. I can't say that Ivor likes this restoration process. He asserted that such changes are going to destroy the original genius loci, and he argued with me on this for a long time. For some reason that I could not understand, I can't stop thinking that he was more angry than he let on. Yes, I know that he is really sensitive about such topics, but I can't change his opinions. I told him that this is going to be a restoration that is based on the original design. I am not going to change my mind about this. As soon as possible, I want to have the restoration process completed. I'm going to guess it didn't go so well. But anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there for this installment of Darkness Within. There's a lot more reading done. I'm really enjoying this game so far. I think it just scratches that itch that I have whenever you finish one of these great cosmic horror stories. The mystery and just the world building so far has been more than I could have hoped for. I'm looking forward to continuing with this. Again, I wanted to just reiterate that I'm sort of focusing more on a lore side where I want to like gather pieces. So if anyone watches this and sees that I missed something, let me know and I'll try to go back for it. Anyway, I think that'll do. This is ISA Cosm. Stay tuned for more cosmic horror video games.